And when you believe in good things will happen when you do good things, it's the same thing. Again,
There's that mindset. There's that world-class mindset of yours, Tom Williams. There it is. I love that.
I think good things come back to good things help. When you do good things, things are going to come back.
All right. Hello out there. Welcome to another episode of World Class Mindset. I like to bring special people into this class to share them with all of you. My life has been the culmination of being around some great people. And Tom Williams, you are one of them. And I really appreciate the relationship that you and I have built over how many years now, Tom, are we together?
Probably over about 27 years now since I was
going to say approaching 30 years, right?
Yes.
Every bit. Tom, let's get started. Let me go back to the very beginning. Where did it all start? I mean, here you are today. I know your love of family is profound, exciting, and they're a huge part of your motivation. You travel the world. Where did it all start?
It all started back where I was born and raised, was in Toledo, Ohio. I was, my parents, I can say, is a big part of my success as a person, let alone as in my business. We had a great upbringing. I can't complain if I couldn't pick a better set of parents. When it comes to where it all started in business and where my life got pushed fast forward than most people. And that's because in college, myself and my kid's mother, Debbie, who passed away back in 2011, we found out that we were having our son, Justin. Wasn't planned, but it was a blessing because
it was an a beautiful oops, huh?
Oh, yeah. And, we had already talked about marriage after college and, we got pushed forward into life. And I think at that point, I knew that I had responsibilities. So I kind of got pushed into into that adulthood a little bit faster than people kind of finding their way in business, trying to say, I'll take this job, I'll take this job. They don't have all these responsibilities yet. So in my case, I had to get it right. And, it all really started was just watching my dad, who built his own business.
Your parents, were they entrepreneurs or did they work? Your dad was an entrepreneur. Tell me a little bit about that.
My father passed away a couple of years ago, as I think I let you know. Yep. I talk to him every day, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I watched him build his business. There were times where he couldn't be at our soccer games. We had to wait for him to eat dinner, and sometimes it was 7 o'clock at night, because he's building his business. I didn't know it at the time, but I did know it when I got pushed into life a little bit fast, so when my son was 3 years old, when I got married, I realized that my dad did all that to give us what I have. I watched my dad not be able to come to a game. And at the time, I kind of felt like I didn't understand, but it didn't really matter. That's just what life was. He would teach us this through taking each one of us on a trip when we were going to be a freshman in high school. Just him and us, me and my dad, or my brother and my dad. He did it with each one of them. And it was like his way of, now reconnecting, because he's got his business to where now he can watch his kids flourish. I felt the need to do that for my family. And I felt like out of 5, I'm the only one that's away from Toledo, Ohio. I took a shot at wanting to be a business owner.
Well, how did your dad feel about that at the time? Did he feel you were making a mistake or not? Did he support you?
No. Actually, how it all worked, it was actually, it's really, I believe in divine intervention. I don't know about you, Eric, but I really do believe in it.
Of course.
And we'll get to that about, especially with my wife, who again passed away in 2011. You had the pleasure of meeting her.
Yes.
She's just an incredible woman, mother, wife. You're lucky to find love once in your life, and I found it with her. And thank God I found it again with my present wife, Jen. You just don't get that lucky. And
two grand slams.
I just feel like
Tom Williams, 2 grand slams. Yeah.
People looking down on me, just making sure that I'm with the right people, right? So when I got out of college, I knew I had to do something. And, my grandfather and my Uncle Jack worked for Prudential. My Uncle Jack, who was my favorite uncle, he was my dad's brother, just my favorite uncle. He was the guy I would go to if I needed to run something by him before I did my dad.
Before you went to your dad. I got you. He was your filter.
Exactly, because he'd make a big joke of it. I could sit here and go all day all day long on stories with my Uncle Jack that I was in so much trouble and he just made me feel like I wasn't.
Yeah.
He just said, man, you're the next in line. You are. You got the gift of gab. I'm the one that wanders off.
So Uncle Jack noticed your people skills, your prowess for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Wow.
He noticed the people skills, I guess.
How old were you?
He
Were you
realized,
very young? You were young. This is before you were married. How young were you when you got this from him?
Right when I got out of college, so 22. 22, I started in with Prudential with him. Eric, the more and more I got into it, I didn't like it. I didn't like approaching you on auto insurance, trying to flip it to life insurance. I just kind of felt, I say dirty, but I just kind of felt like,
bait and switch. It didn't feel clean. Yeah,
right,
I got you.
Right.
I got
my
you.
mind, so this is where the story gets really where divine intervention just falls into place. Mothers know their sons, right? Mothers know their sons.
Yes, they do.
And to me, the person that knows the most about your family outside your family is your mom's hairdresser and nail doer, right? I mean, they talk all day. My mom just got her hair done. I got home and my mom's like, how'd it go today? And I said, well, we're good. She kind of feeling, she goes, well, look, if it doesn't work out, give this guy a call. This is my hairdresser's soon to be husband. He owns, he runs American Income Life, an insurance company. Eric, I called him the next day and I sat down with David Moorhead, and David Moorhead.
Divine intervention, Tom.
Definitely. Sat down with David Moorhead. I walked out of that interview. I said, I just don't know how to tell my parents or my family I'm not working for Prudential. I'm going to come work for this guy, because I saw the entrepreneurship in the insurance industry with American Income. I didn't see it in Prudential. You can make money selling insurance. You can make a lot of money, right? But Prudential isn't about what American Income was about. American Income was about building, lifetime renewals, all that stuff. I got hooked on it. And that's where David just became one of those guys I wanted to strive to be, just like my dad. My biggest mentor in my life is my dad. I strive to be a father like him. I strive to be a husband like him. I strive to be a brother like him.
And you are, if not
right?
more, smiling.
And I strive to do business the right way like him. One of the biggest compliments I ever witnessed my dad getting. And he never was out to get compliments. He just knew everybody wherever he went. We went out to dinner. It was like, Marty, and he would get up and shake. It was almost like a politician in a restaurant, right? When he passed away and I went to the wake, here I am, the only sibling that's pretty much been gone from Toledo. I come back. All my dad's friends knew exactly who I was, but I didn't remember some of them because I had never really met them in person. So I'm sitting there and they're coming up and they're going, Tommy. And I said, yeah, how are you? And they're like, you don't know who I am. I've never met you, but I know you because your dad always spoke about his kids, always. I wasn't even around for 80% of the time, right? I'm in for holidays. We're together on trips together for family, but here he is telling his buddies and telling the judges and telling the defense attorneys for the doctors that he's suing. He's got all these friends that should be enemies, right? And he's got all these friends and they know all about his family. And when you read an article that I've got in my Michigan home, down in the bar, underneath his name, underneath his picture with him with a martini, there is an article that was ran in the Blade about how great of an attorney my father was. Okay. He was a friend. It's like it was so hard to get mad at Marty Williams.
Wow.
He just did it with so much class. And he ran his business that way. And
you're just like him, Tom. I mean, now I'm beginning to see the past.
Well, that's why I always think of what my dad would do, right? Could things be done even better today in his business? I'm sure. Just like people are going to do better in our business. It's just that the people below us should always do better than the people ahead of us. It should always just get better.
So now you started your career. What you were with Prudential. So you obviously were moving in the entrepreneurial world versus salary working for somebody.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that journey, because here you are, you obviously feel good about David Moorhead. Talk about that period of history where you lost him, because I know I was around then. And how did that shape your mindset? What I'm already beginning to feel with you is who you are as to why you got there. It's your father. Your father was a major, major, major influence in how he raised you. And you actually completely are the embodiment of him. You could feel it and see it.
What's really interesting about that is because it's, again, when I believe in just when you have an opportunity that's in front of you, you either jump on it and you're success with it, or you miss it because you question it. And I just always have done things with my gut. Your gut can tell you 75% of the time the right thing to do. Sometimes you got to take risks too, because I believe in taking risks as long as you believe in what you're doing. So many people think about the negative part of, well, this is what could happen. That's not what the nervousness that comes up in your body. I'm talking about what's right and wrong. I feel this guy is genuine. And that's what I felt like with David Moorhead. And I didn't know it at the time, but because no one was going to talk about it in there. Until I had been there 6 months, where you kind of feel like you're not going anywhere. You quit in your mind a dozen times in your first 90 days, but you're there 6 months, you're starting to go, I got this down, right? Is that I come to find out prior to me, David had quality issues with the business. A lot of people had quality issues back then with Bernard, the way the business was ran. And he had fired everybody except for one person, that was Mike Jones. So then he built up, Barry McManaman and I can name all these people. I mean, we had a crew there. It was just so fun, but I was the youngest guy. And I remember when I met with David, I believed in him. I remember them telling me later that David didn't want to hire me because I was so young. Like he felt like he went to Sherry. He got home and Sherry goes, so what'd you think of Tom Williams? And he goes, he's just so young. And Sherry goes, give him a shot, give him a shot, give him a shot. So he gives me a shot, but I believe David felt like he had to put his arm around me because I was young, right? He had to kind of be that, wait a minute, I want to make sure this guy gets it right. I don't want him failing. He comes from too good of I just kind of felt like David saw where I came from, and he's just like, I got to make it happen for this guy. He's a big believer, and man, I was a sponge, Eric. I was in there every morning.
Yeah, you were like
me,
yeah.
And I would just soak up what he would do. He would show me reports. He'd show me PVFCs, show me renewals, and I said, I want that. I want that. And he says, well, you keep working hard. I'm gonna help you get there. And he helped me get there. He became my first mentor in the business, obviously. When he got sick, when he took me to North Carolina, I remember him telling me when he got the state of North Carolina, in addition to Toledo and yep. Dayton, he told me, he said, listen, you can go with me, and when I retire, it's yours, or you can stay here and be the SJ in Toledo in about 3 years. And that's where Debbie, my first wife, who was the biggest support system in the first place, because you remember, Eric, we're gone at 8 in the morning. We don't get home till midnight.
So before we go there, I wanted you to talk about Debbie. I want you to talk about to those out there the importance of her support for you and how important it was. What was that all about?
Oh, well, I tell everybody when you get into this business, even today with the Zoom, is that you got to have your family support, and that means from 5 to 9 when you're working, you can't have any interruptions. I mean, you're working, you're building your business, you're selling. So then in the morning you can recruit and build your people and build up higher. And she just understood that. And we both wanted the same things, wanted her to be home. She came from 2 working mom and dad to where when she came home, her mom wasn't home until an hour and a half later. Not that that's wrong. It's not.
Right.
It's just that I had my mom home every I knew no different. And I think if anybody can do it, they would do it that way. We made a decision together that we're going to sacrifice everything ourselves to be able to do that for our kids. So bigger things that we want right now can wait because we can't afford it. That's the support, is that we're building something together. And just because I'm out there selling doesn't mean she's not part of the building process.
Gotcha.
Look, you leave Prudential that was paying me a salary, and I tell her, she says, what are you going to get paid over there? And I said, commission and bonus. For someone to say, I got you, I'll back you. She wasn't working. We came from good families. Her mom and dad, Justin was staying there while my mom and dad were providing help while I was in college, and then when I got out of college, I looked at both my parents and her parents when I got my career with American Income, and I said, that's it. All we want is your love now. We're going to take it from here. We're going to buy what we need to buy. But thank you. Until we got married, she was staying there with her mom. So we had great support system. Don't get me wrong. We had a great support system.
I think everybody listening to this broadcast needs to really know the value of that support system, Tom, that you're talking about. Because I see good people like you who aren't getting that support at home and or with their friends. Critical, wasn't it? Really important.
Well, there's no way in our business, and I don't think in anybody's business is trying to build something, that if they come home and their family's unhappy and not supportive of them, their wife, or the other way around. You can only put on a smile, fake smile for so long. It's going to hurt both sides. It's going to hurt the relationship. It's going to hurt the business. It's going to hurt everything. So you got to be on the same page. I believe I had the best sport. I still have it today. Like I said,
Yeah, you do.
Jen now helps with the business, not in the same sense as that Debbie did. Debbie was taking care of kids and making sure.
Right, different. Right.
It's different, but today she helps does this. She's the same support because I still got a business to go perform in like you do.
Let's go back to David Moorhead. He gives you the offer. You can stay here, be the SGA, or you can come with me. And then you obviously opted to go with him, but then you lose him, right? How long before you lost David Moorhead and he passed away? How soon?
So I came into the business officially. Your official date is when you write your first piece of business. So my first piece of business was after my 66th presentation. Eric, I went 0 for 66.
What? Tom. Yeah. I can't believe it, Tom. I don't believe that.
I did.
For 66?
I did. I noticed.
I'm shocked. Why did you suck so bad? Did you get bad training? What happened?
I hired into American Income in like November of 91, but my official hire date is February of 92. So anyway, I knew the presentation better than anybody. It's just that when someone said I can't afford it, I was never taught what to say. I stuck to the presentation the way they gave it to me on paper because I'm like, I know nothing about sales or insurance, so why should I question this?
Sure.
So I just did it.
Yeah.
Well, what I didn't know was how to answer, I can't afford it, or I want to think about it. And by the time it got to like my third week, I was starting to have mind games with myself.
I'd be very insecure, Tom, if I went 0 for 66. So I got a question here. How do you overcome these
people were trying to tell me that
I guess this was the first adversity, that big time 0 for 66.
First one. And Debbie stuck right with it because she saw that I still was positive. And I kept saying to David Moore, I remember walking into David Moorhead's office, and this is where it comes in, the end of the third week. I mean, I'm about ready to end the third week. Again, the fourth week. I'm sorry, start the fourth week. 0.
I'm out of here, right?
So I sat David down. I remember going into the office. I remember hearing Mike Jones tell David, Tommy didn't sell again yesterday or whatever, right? This is like 3 weeks. And so I said, you know what? I went into David's office. I said, look, I need 20 minutes from you. And he goes, you got it. I go, when I come back, I just need, he goes, no, sit down. So I said, look, David, I can give you this presentation from the back of it to the start of it, sideways.
Verbatim.
I said, look, I know what the problem is. I'm getting hit with, I want to think about it. I can't afford it. I'm talking to people that are 55, 60 years old. I'm 22. I look 17. Okay. I know what the factors are. I said, but I know I can do this. All I need you to tell me what to say when someone says, I want to think about it, or I can't afford it. So I said, look, I'm going to hit you with it. You give it to me. I wrote it down, Eric. I went home and studied it. David moved me to another territory, Defiance, Ohio, change it up, right? I make all these appointments for the next day. I wake up. Eric, I don't think I woke up out of bed so excited that day. God had to go back to the first day, which I was excited the first day, but I was also nervous as shit, right?
Yeah.
Now I was excited. I couldn't wait for my first appointment to tell me I want to think about it. I get to the first one, Eric, and the person goes, I'll take plan A. And I went, excuse me?
What?
Right? And I remember calling David Moorhead. I called my wife first, told my wife, I said, I made my first sale. And she was, very happy, obviously. She was just happy for me. And then I called up David, and he goes, well, get off the phone with me. Go do another one, And I remember the next one hit me with, I want to think about it. And you're not going to turn all those. You're not going to turn every one of them.
No.
But this one I did turn.
You're right. You turned.
And then I made a third sale. I made presentations that day, and I had 3 sales.
Wow.
That was it. From that point forward,
I have a question in here that I always like to ask people. Tell me about one of the big adversities in your life and how did you overcome it? And you just really shared with all of us how you overcame it. You went back to your mentor and you said, you need to hear me. And then you need to tell me what, Tom, that's unbelievable story, Tom. I love
Well,
that.
and and that's what starts with David, and that's where I knew that I loved Mike Jones. He was my manager. I respected him as my MGA, but David was the reason I was there.
So everybody that's listening here, if you see somebody that's way up there, take a look at them and get close to them like you did, Tom, and like I did. My manager, he was the big boss. I said I wanted to be like him. So then I took time to get close to him, to learn from him as a mentor. What a great story. So now here you are, you're with David Moorhead. Talk about that day that David Moorhead passed away. And because I remember the feelings right now, it muster up in me how hard that was.
It makes me think about it all the time. And to this day, I have a relationship with Sherry.
With Sherry, his wife.
I've done different things just to try to show my respect for David and pay back what he did for me by, and I'll get into what Sherry has been doing. But when David and I went to North Carolina, I remember how happy he was, in North Carolina. He just loved to play golf. He was happy. And then he gets hit with news that he's got esophageal cancer. And this was in 1995. I started in 92. We moved to North Carolina in 95. And in January of 98, he passed away. When he had to do all that, we all know people that have gone through it. I saw my wife go through it, and their minds aren't always in the right place. So I was running the agency while he was doing his treatments, and I'd tell him, show me what you want me to do, pay these bills, tell me, I'll do whatever you want me to do, David. This guy got me to where I was at.
Loyalty,
he showed
bro.
me a career. Yep, he showed me a business. He gave me an opportunity at something I knew I was good at, and when you want to say cashed in on it. I drove myself hard. This guy gave it to me, so here I am doing this, and I remember my dad, again, my biggest mentor. He was taking us all on a trip, all his kids, to Ireland, his favorite place, right? And to this day, I still haven't been to Ireland because Debbie and I chose not to go because I had to be there to run the business for David. He wasn't officially retired yet. And my dad said, no, it's like he said, that's an easy answer. He knew what David had done for me. And, my dad secretly talking with David behind the scenes, I remember.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
I remember Debbie threw me a MGA promotion party. And I remember David saying to me the next day, he goes, your dad, not in a real serious way, just kind of like shook his head and goes, man, is this real? Is this, my son is financially doing very well at his age. Is this real? My dad looked into the business stuff, and all he heard was good things about American Income. And my Uncle Jack heard about American Income. A friend of his knew about American Income. American Income wasn't a household name. But fast forwarding, when David, was passing away, I guess he was, being terminal. My father just said, he never questioned. Dad, I just can't go. And he said, he goes, I'd make the same decision. So don't worry about it. We'll make the trip again. The four of us will go. Your mom and I, Debbie and you will go. We'll go another time. There was things that you got to sacrifice for people that have done things for you, right? Sure. So this guy needed me, and he was a big loss. I remember Bernard wanting to make me an SGA. So I started going in and talking to them. David worked it out, and I remember having my last conversation with David, and he says, so did they offer you anything? Because they asked me to, because he was retired. And I said, yeah, David, they've, Bernard says, whenever you're ready. And I said, but I'm not. I told him I'm not ready. And I know I need another year of doing what I'm doing. So that's where Larry Weiner came in. Larry Weiner became the SJ in North Carolina. I was under him for 1 year. And then Bernard Rappaport made me SJ of South Florida in August of 1998. Wow. That's really where going from agent through being an MGA, RGA, losing my mentor, which now brings back the second biggest tragedy at that point. It was like, I just lost the guy that I still needed. I still needed this guy. I thank Larry Weiner a lot. He gave me another different aspect from a different, he came from Scott Latta, who's I love Scott Latta, respect Scott Latta. David Moorhead loved Scott Latta. So I was like, this guy's a good guy. The best guy, though, was when David passed, Joe Manoni at that point became big
Another
business
class
mentor.
act.
He like
Yeah,
stepped in
yeah.
without being asked. He just
Tom
stepped
Williams, divine intervention is your life, my friend.
in.
It
Yeah.
seems that God knew to put, when I think of you and your life, and I hear the names of the people you speak of and the love that you speak, it reminds me of what I've been really believing in so much, that the power of relationships, that relationships are everything. So here you are, now you got Scott Ladd, and now you're taking over the whole world. Now you're moving forward, carrying around these mentors who have taught you. I want to move forward, Tom, because I'm a little hesitant to ask, but I feel that if you're okay with me asking you about Debbie, I know that you went through something that very few people will go through, the loss of your wife. It was devastating for you. I remember that whole period. I know how close you two were. Were there people around you that helped you? How did you get through and be able to move forward with your life? I wanted to ask you that, and I hope that I'm not out of place.
No. That was going to come up from me at some point, because that was probably the biggest adversity I've ever dealt with. When I look back at my son Justin, he does have. I have 3 children. It's just that we lost his twin before they were even born. Justin was premature because we lost his identical twin brother.
I never knew that.
Right,
I never knew that.
somewhere about 16, 17 weeks before they were supposed to be due, and 20 weeks or something like that. And I remember sitting at that funeral that my dad put together. I don't even remember putting it together. I was 20 years old. Looking back, it was a fog, and I remember that was the first thing that Debbie and I, as a couple, not even married yet, had to overcome. That was just another one of those things that pushed me. Now, fast forward, you get to where David passes away. We move down to Florida. We start our business. I mean, business starts when you're an agent, but when you become a state general agent back in our day, Eric, this, you're not taking over. You're not just taking a successful deal. You're starting from the ground up.
Starting from the bottom.
You're forced to take over leases that you wouldn't have signed in the first place, and all that kind of stuff, right? So, Debbie was just that support system, because the fact that she understood and was on board with what we had to do in the first 9 months that we were there. We were a family business. We were putting mailings together. The kids were helping, doing my own printing and all that stuff. So here you got this great partner in life, but I've got her as a partner in business. She understands
great American
what
story.
We can't afford to pay. We got to do ourselves because we're the business owners.
Great American story. 2 people in love building something.
We'll fast forward, and in 2008, roughly 10 years after we signed that SGA contract, and I say we because I just believe your spouse is part of it. And Jen, I say we own the business because Jen's my wife. She's my partner in life. She's
Amen.
Now, but with Debbie, she was there from the beginning, right? She was there from the beginning, and we ended up finding out that she had sarcoma, cancer. She had a tumor in her pelvis. She fought it for 3 years, and a lot of people couldn't even tell she was sick 90% of the time, because she was such a positive person. But during those 3 years, your life changes, right? And I did exactly what I know she would do for me, what you would do for yours, what yours would do for yours. At least that's what I would expect people to do, right?
100%.
Just like I would do it for Jen. Jen would do it for me. If it was turned around, Debbie would take care of me. And I just never gave up. We just figured we're going to fight this thing. And I still had a business to run. Here I am at another Y in the road, and I've got to make that right decision, and I've got to figure out. And the first thing is, the right decision is whatever's best for my family. Debbie fights it for 3 years, and unfortunately passes in March of 2011. It's one thing to lose somebody. It's different when you lose somebody suddenly. Over those 3 years, I never ever thought of her ever passing, but I knew it would never be the same, right? Things were just not going to be the same. But I never saw her passing. So when she did pass, it's still a sudden thing to you, even though you kind of, you were able to get some things ducks in a row. And at that point, I had a real decision to make. I really didn't want, I really at that time didn't want to do anything anymore because my life was taking care of it. And then it was getting up early in the morning, going to the office from 6 to 9, coming home at 9, going back at 5 when the kids were home, coming back at 7, only being away from her for 2 hours. You know, when she was in the hospital, she's going to stay in the hospital. I'm going to stay in the hospital. So, you know, you just do those things. But when she passed, it was almost like, well, this wasn't important. You know, this wasn't important anymore. And at the time with the business, you know, when Debbie got sick, I made that decision to where, you know, I took what was best for my family over money in my pocket, per se. And I took on a partner and gave up half my revenue because I knew that I was not going to be able to give my people the time that was needed to grow the business because I'm going to choose to be over here first. And I would think they would do the same thing, right? You know, David Zoffin, who is now our president, you know, is the gentleman that I ended up asking to come in, and we grew the business together. And then when Debbie passed, you know, I had a decision to make, and it was just like, a lot of things didn't matter. It was really just my kids. And what happened was I started thinking about, again, we got this person, Debbie, who was a big part of this. And, you know, what would she do? What, you know, I started.
Oh, so that's an insight. What would she do? What would she want you to do? What would she do?
You know, and I talked to my dad. He was still alive. You know, like I said, my dad died in 2018. So, you know, I used my dad a lot. You know, I used my oldest sister. My oldest sister and I became so close.
Family.
So close. You know, my older sister and I were always, we were close. We love each other. But when Debbie passed, I mean, I went to her on certain things when it came about to my daughter. You know, my daughter was 15, you know, my son's 22. We still have unfinished business that Debbie and I plan to do. You know, I've got college for her. I've got grandchildren that are going to be coming that my dad helped with college, and I'm going to pay for their college. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to keep going.
You've obviously, as you just shared, your father who stood by your side, your children, and everybody. And so shout out to all those in your life, Tom. I pray that all of us that are watching this broadcast can look around in our family area and our friends and maybe really get those relationships solid, because there will come a time for all of us where we need that love, where we need that support. And without it, like you said, you woke up and saying, this doesn't matter anymore. You know, and I can't even think about what it would have been like for you if you didn't have the family, if you didn't have this support system around you, right, to support you, Tom. Really, it's incredible.
The thing is again, what ended up really helping is because I'm not one of these macho guys that say I don't need help, right? I'm not one of those guys. Debbie, I remember her wanting us as a family to go see this therapist. You don't want to give in to why she wants us to go see this therapist, but she knew what was happening, right? People going through it. And I remember her name was Chantel, the therapist. And I remember after Debbie passed, I said, I need someone to talk to that met Debbie, but doesn't know does not have any type of opinion.
No involvement, right. No intimacy involvement.
And talk to her about grief. Like, you know, it's just like I wouldn't show it in front of my kids, but I tried not to.
You seek help, Tom, and everybody listening.
But I had many
over your head. You get help, right?
Yeah, I had many moments where I knew I was by myself in the house that I broke down, right? So, you know, I just knew I needed to speak to someone because I had decisions to make. It started to come time where I needed to make them. And she made me realize that you want to do something that makes you happy. And I said, okay. So I thought about it, Eric, and I decided at that time, I remember looking at myself in the mirror. I remember doing this. I was looking at myself in the mirror, which this is kind of funny because it turned into two things. I looked at myself in the mirror, and before I could answer whether American income, my job, my career, my entrepreneurship, my business, that I was going to be able to put in that time that needed to be timed, right, for those people, because that's what it's all about. I saw how badly of shape I was in. And I said, well, first of all, I don't like the way I look. That's number one. We got to do something about that. And I started going to the gym, and
You
to
went
this
to the
day,
gym
I'm 5 days a week.
You're
right?
caught up now, bro. I've seen you.
And then I said, I still love coaching people. It's not about the money anymore. I want to go in. I want to coach people. It'll take my mind off things. And the more and more I got back in that office, Eric, the more and more, the easier it was to kind of cope with what was happening in my life.
Amen. Amen. For those listening, I hope you heard that like I did right now. You still had your purpose inside of you. You wanted to help other people. And by going into the office and engaging in what you loved doing, that in itself was therapy. That in itself was life breathing inside of you. It wasn't just about making a paycheck at that point. Go ahead.
Exactly. It wasn't the money. Of course, you don't want to lose money, but it wasn't about, I kind of felt at the time, which let's fast forward now, the renewals are twice as much. So, as they were back then. And I thought, I'm done. I'm fine. The money wasn't the thing. It was, am I able to give these people what they need and what is expected of me in my position? And when you believe in good things will happen when you do good things, it's the same thing.
There's that mindset. There's that world-class mindset of yours, Tom Williams. There it is. I love that.
I think good things come back to good things help. When you do good things, things are going to come back. It might take time, but it's coming. Just keep positive.
I know a lot of people, Tom, who go to church every Sunday, but they don't have this mindset. They don't understand. And then they don't go a single day to church, but yet they act and behave more godly, more in a way that's more loving to the world, to the people, because that's ultimately what it's all about. You looked in the mirror and you said, I owe it to people. I owe it to myself. Let me take care of me and let me go do what I love doing, helping other people realize their dreams.
Do you want to just sit there and collect the money and really not impact people? And to me, cheat them out of the greatest opportunity in business, American business today? I'm just not going to do it. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to step aside and let somebody else do a better job at it.
Absolutely.
So back in 2011, when Debbie passed, that very next fall, which was about 9 months later, I got dragged to, and I mean dragged to, I got talked into by a good friend of mine from college. When you lose someone, you kind of know who your friends are, the ones that reach out. The people like you, even the people that go a step further and are able to make a trip down. It doesn't matter. You find out who your people are when they're reaching out to you, right?
Amen.
And my college friends, I got about 5 of them that we've never, ever disconnected. One of them said, hey, look, I'm a big Notre Dame fan. Eric, you know that. And this guy is a huge Michigan fan. And he had season tickets to Michigan. I have season tickets to Notre Dame now. I didn't have them at the time. And he said, look, Notre Dame is playing Michigan at Michigan this year. You're coming, we're going to go together, and you're going to stay here for a week, and we're going to go to our 20th college reunion next weekend. And I said, I don't want to go. I hadn't been back.
You're looking to get out of that. Right? You don't want to go.
Right? But he goes, you're going. I said, okay. Well, Eric, guess what? That weekend, not only did I have one of the greatest times, I saw people I hadn't seen in years, but I ended up reconnecting with someone, with Jen, who ended up being my wife. All of a sudden we pick up our friendship, right? To where we used to, if someone said, did you have a friend in college that was just like a best friend? I'd say, yeah, her name was Jennifer Dreyer. She was that way to my brother, Pat. She was that way to a lot of people. She's just a great girl. And I remember seeing her there, and I remember just reconnecting, and we gave each other numbers to stay in connection. She had stayed connected with my twin brother, and she knew what happened because Pat told her, kind of kept her in the loop. It was about 7 or 8 months later, I had to go to Chicago, and we went to dinner, and, we just decided at that point, something just clicked, and, we started dating long distance, said, let's just see how it works. I wasn't looking for anything. Now married we got married in 16. So, we've been married now for 6 years or 7 years now. Here's the thing. I was watching a documentary on Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
He talks, I think he puts it perfectly. He says, when you get into life, like in his business, our business, where it's just about family and our business, it's like you're on a train and you're looking out the window and the picture keeps flying by. It's a different picture. You're never going to be able to see that picture again. That's how life is. And it's gone. You can't change it. Amen. So why are you worrying about it? You wish you would have said this or did this or made a decision here. You wish you would have made this turn instead of that turn. Get over it. Make the right turn now. That's all. This is about mindset, right? And
yes.
Not everybody makes the right decision, and not everybody does does the same thing somebody else would do.
Right.
I have, like in the case of making these guys SGAs, I have, like Corey said, Tom's figured out that SGA bonus. Well, it only figured out if they get the growth. And now I need to see the growth. Okay. So I give up the revenue. Some people would be like, you're crazy. Well, I might give somebody money when they don't deserve it just because my heart's telling me there's something behind this that is they need. It's worth it. It's worth it. Right.
So when I hear you, and I hope everybody hears this, do the right thing. You in your heart felt it was the right thing to do to give up this revenue, take a risk, because the people, because I know the people you promoted, they're close to you, and you to them, they're to you like you were to David Moorhead. I know the loyalty that you have with your people, and you were willing to give that up. And like Corey said, of course, you knew that if it worked out, there would be a big bonus. But there's a big what if it worked out. There's no guarantees that it'll work out. There are no guarantees in life. That train, like Sly said, it's going by, man. Everything's happening.
Yes.
So you took that chance. You promoted these guys, hopefully, God willing. And by the way, why do I have a feeling you're going to get all kinds of bonus money, Tom? Because that's been the story of your life, in that you've been always willing to give. And because of it, it comes back, whether it's through that or through some other way that the universe is going to give. Yeah. But look at the faith you have. And I pray that everybody watching this can grow the level of faith that you have. What advice would you give to those who are watching, who have been inspired by your story, like I am listening to you here today? If they're in a bad space, they lost a spouse, they lost a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or their job is not what they wanted it to be, and they feel like they're in a dead end. And I want you to do this, Tom, because Bernard raised you and I the same way. He said, if you save one soul, you save the world. And so somebody's watching, and I know that, like me, they're moved by your story. What advice would you give to those people out there who are struggling?
First thing is, don't be afraid to get up and get knocked down again, because it's going to happen. A lot of things that I can teach my kids, because that we both have experienced. My kids have experienced. They lost their mother, so they know life is not just all happiness until your mom and dad get old, and eventually they're going to pass away, and we all know that. But when you're hit with adversity, and everybody is, I'm not the only one, is that you got to be willing to get up, and you got to have a purpose, and that purpose has got to be something that's going to keep your mind straight, keep you on the same path. And if that means make a total change, then make a total change. A lot of people, someone asked me in an interview with American Income, the one that they do recordings of us, and they same thing. They gave us what they were going to ask, and I know a lot of people were over there trying to figure out, what do I say on this, what do I say on that, and I just was like, I'm just going to shoot it from what it comes from. And they asked, what advice would you give people on your on your success or how it happened? I said, look, I'm just one of these people that believe in, if you believe in something as much as I do in American Income, taking risks are easy, because you're just looking at, you don't look at the negative side, because you're going to fail. You can't succeed without failing. No one's ever had.
Doesn't work.
Some people have failed less than others, but everyone's failed. But the ones that succeed, no matter what they're in, is because they get back up to fight another day. So just get back up, but have a purpose. Don't just get back up and keep getting beaten down because you're doing the same. Change it up. Life is precious.
It has been an honor to get this time with you, Tom, and to dig in with you. I want you to know that year that you took the number one slot during that period in life,
there's no give back there.
I want you to know I don't expect you to give me the trophy back. Okay, Tom? So that's your trophy.
Here, let me say one. Can I say one more? Can I say one more thing?
What?
When you talked about how I'm making these guys SGAs, I also, there's also a personal side to it too. It's not just all good giving and stuff like that. They understand. I tell them, look, you're taking this from me. All I ask for you is to have growth. Have growth, 100%. Because then I get paid back for what I've lost. But I want you to succeed. But the other reason is because the only way for us, you and I, to get to the renewal that we work so hard for, right? I mean, is we got to be clear. And, a lot of people's not going to understand what we're saying. but you got to be clear. And to me, I don't want to retire to get clear. I want to be with this company. I am sold on what the direction of this company is going. And I want to help the company get there. And that means I got to stay here. If I'm going to get any bonus on these guys, I got to still be an SGA, right?
I love
So
it.
I have signed up for, I guess it's called life, because this
Lifetime, baby. Like me, Tom, we're going nowhere.
I will retire when I lose the love of this game. That's when I will retire.
That's what I've always said, Tom. I'm going to leave. Number one, and only two reasons I'm leaving. Number one, I lost my love of the game. Or number two, Tom, I'm not effective. I can't make a difference. If you're in a place where you're not loving what you're doing, where you're adding value to what you're doing. I always say this, Tom, get out of that place like you get out of a burning house. And go find something that you can get passionate about, feel good about, and get excited when you wake up every day that you have a direction, you have a purpose. And by the way, Tom, let everybody know, let's let them know nothing is perfect. Everywhere you go, you're going to find imperfection, things you don't like, things you don't agree with. You know how you get even with a bad boss? You become their boss. You keep doing what you do, and eventually maybe you'll be the boss and you'll be kind and generous with them, unlike they were with you. But Tom Williams, the world needs more Tom Williams. And I know you're going to be around a long, long time, Tom Williams.
The privilege is all mine because of what you and some people that have been around with as long as you or longer than you have paved the way. I look at that as people have paved the way in front of me. I'm behind you, not far behind you, but still almost a generation. The point is I came in, I've been here now 32 years. You've been with the company how long now?
43 years. 43. I got only 1 decade on you, Tom.
Hey, so 1 decade. But the point is that you guys, you were the ones that I looked up to. You guys were the guys, you were the people I was chasing. It was the Gigliones, it was the Zippers. And God knows, Mark Zipper. I mean, I got to mention him. He was a mentor of mine when I got to Florida. And we all know the reason why, Eric, because he's your best friend and so on. So, but he's another one. Roger Smith, another one. I mean, Roger was really my Bernard, because I only knew Bernard as an agent. Roger is the guy that led me. So, those are.
Amen. Now, your wealth, Tom, is the people that you're surrounded by. I've always said that. Your wealth is the people you're surrounded by and your children. They are what make you wealthy. Money doesn't make you wealthy. God bless you, Tom. Thank you so much for being on this broadcast. And to all of you out there, if you can get just a little bit of what I know I've gotten out of this broadcast, your life's going to be so much better. Thanks for being on the broadcast. And Tom, love you. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Love you too, Eric. Thank you.
Bye, guys.